Hello and welcome to another Tiva Drive winter review. And this time around we have again with us the Kia EV9. It's a different version that we tested last time. It's a newer version, but it's also a different version. Previously we tested the GT line, which is and still is actually top of the line version. Not for long, because there will be a proper GT coming soon with even more horsepower. This one is just below the GT line. This is the Land all-wheel drive. The main difference is there's fewer upgrades. It's a less expensive version. So the last one we drove was over 80 grand. This one actually starts at 68,000. Incredible price for an all-wheel drive 7-seater SUV. 68 grand. This one has about 5 grand worth of options. So all in all, it's about 72 grand. And so it's basically 10 grand cheaper than the Volkswagen ID Buzz, which also happens to be a 7-seater. Actually, it's a 6-seater. The 7-seater will come later. Same with this. The difference between the GT line and this Land all-wheel drive, this is a 7-seater versus the GT line being a 6-seater, because you have the captain's chairs in the second row. So we won't go with a full walk around with you, because it looks basically identical. You looked at the front. We had you look at the front space before. That did not change. We'll just show you the slightly different smaller rims on this Land all-wheel drive version, and we'll show you the second row because it's different. It's no longer captain's chairs, as we mentioned. It's a bench with 3 seats. So we'll show you that, and I will try and sit in the second row, and we'll show you again the space in the third row with the various positions of the seats in the second row. So again, this there's no difference really, not too many differences with the GT line. It has a sunroof. Again, it has a front sunroof opening, and the rear sunroof is fixed. They both have the covers. The front sunroof has a manual cover. The rear sunroof has an electric cover. Okay, so here's the big difference from the GT line. It's a 7-seater. It's a 60-40 split. So you have 3 seat belts, 1, 2, and third one over there. All these seats slide manually. So what we've done, we've positioned the left side, the 60% side, all the way back, and the right side is all the way to the front. As you can see, with the seat all the way back, there is literally no space left for the, there you go, there's really not much space left for the rear legroom. It's only when you put the seat all the way to the front, the third row gets decent space, but then you don't have much space in the second row. So we won't even attempt to get in there. It doesn't lock. There you go. But you can see in between here that there's literally no legroom left when you have the seats all the way back. Of course, the seats here, they move front and back, and they also recline. So you can change the position of the seat. So now it's very vertical to be comfortable. You probably want to recline it slightly. And so you'd have to adjust it depending on the people you have in your back. 2 very tall people may not be a good idea for them to travel in the third row. For pre-teenage kids, it should be fine. So again, that's the main difference with the GT line that we tested before. The trunk space is the same. So we'll just basically let you hop in with us, go for a test drive, give you our impressions, and most importantly, give you the results of our winter test drive. The battery and everything else is the same. 379 horsepower, 99.8 kilowatt hours battery. That's a gross capacity. Net capacity is 98 kilowatt hours. And we'll tell you about the consumption in the winter, with or without preconditioning, and also with or without battery conditioning for the DC fast charging session. So let's hop in. Okay, welcome back to another fast DC charging session at Electrify Canada here in Barrie, Ontario. We are back with the Kia EV9, one of the best deals in the market for a 3-row, not one of the best, the best deal for a 3-row electric, full electric SUV. 100 kilowatt hour battery with the range of close to 500 kilometers rated. But we're doing it in the winter, -5 degrees today, sunny. We did precondition the battery in order to speed up the charging process. This is an 800 volt system of the EGMP platform, which should allow well over 200 kilowatts of fast charging speed on a 350 kilowatt charger. And luckily here, number 4, which is the only 350 kilowatt charger, is now working. It wasn't working last week. All the others are 150 kilowatt machines. So let's see what we're at. When we plugged in at around 50%, it peaked at around 120 kilowatts of speed. Right now we're at 105 kilowatts, 107 kilowatts, and we're probably around 70%. As you can see, we started at 48%. We're at 59% now, and we're doing 107 kilowatts. The weird thing about we're transporting a lot of goods from IKEA, some furniture and stuff in the car. So when we set the navigation on the car navigation to the fast charger here, we just typed in the words Electrify Canada, gave us the list of all the Electrify Canada stations nearby. So that function has been improved. The funny thing is that the speed here, excuse me, actually now it kind of stabilized. It's showing 107, so it always shows less in a car than it does, of course, in a on the machine. There's some charging losses. Here's the speed, 107, and it's showing 110 on the machine. So once we set the navigation of the car, let's turn it on. Once we set the navigation, in-car navigation to the Electrify Canada fast charger, of course, it did automatically start a preconditioning. It would appear that you can do it manually if you go home, EV, and there you go. You have preconditioning. You have the activate button here. I don't know if you can see it. It's not available now because the car's not on. But there's a preconditioning, battery preconditioning button right here, so it's showing that it's charging and how much time it's gonna take. Yeah, there is a button here where you can press activate button for the battery conditioning. So if you're not using the navigation of the car, if you're using navigation from your phone, you can manually activate the battery conditioning. So the consumption today, let's see if we can turn it on for you, was actually its current trip. But the consumption today was 36.6. I don't know if we can switch it to other after charging. Yeah, everything is zeroed down. And it's since last reset, which we reset a long time ago. Anyways, the consumption was basically around 36, which is quite high. The temperature -5. It must be the battery conditioning that causes the consumption to be so high, so heating up the battery. If you were to precondition the car at home before heading out on a trip, it would probably bring your consumption down, because then you're using the mains power to precondition the car and the battery. That's about it from us today for this fast charging session. Stay tuned for the full review of this car, and we just may compare it to another 3-row pure electric SUV for you. Okay, so here we are inside 2025 Kia EV9 Land all-wheel drive 7-seater. Which is a slightly different version than the GT line we drove before. As we mentioned, this is the best deal right now for the all-wheel drive, the least expensive all-wheel drive, the Land all-wheel drive, starting at 68 grand, which is a phenomenal price for a 7-seater pure electric SUV with a huge battery of 99.8. It's actually bigger than the Volkswagen ID Buzz. We previously compared it with an R1S Rivian, which is way more expensive. It's at least 30 grand more for the base version. So this is right now in this market, it's the best deal for a 7-seater pure electric SUV. So the only thing that we mentioned, the only downside that we found is preconditioning. The only way to precondition, unless you have the app, okay? So without the app, the only way to precondition is to go into the EV settings, which is basically here, and then you go to next departure time. So you have to set a timing in order for the car to precondition. It's the only way. With most of the other cars, you can basically you can, at the moment you turn off the car, the menu pops on where you can do parking heat, parking climate, or they call it. Sometimes they call it, preconditioning. So there's a button that pops up as soon as you turn the car off. So I think it would be easy for Kia to program it into their cars, because right now it's fairly complicated. If you don't have the app, or if you don't want to use the app, then there should be an easier and faster way to precondition the car before the trip, or use parking climate when you want to go shopping and it's a super cold day and you want to keep the climate running. So that's about it. That's our only beef, and perhaps there's a way around it. We tried to find it, we could not. There might be a way to do it other than the phone app. So if you know of one, let us know. So basically the car is identical. It's still the same screens and everything. You still have the front opening sunroof with the manual sunshade, and you have the rear sunroof, which is a fixed but with an electric sunshade. There you go. So basically we like the fact that there's buttons. These buttons here are a bit of a pain, because when you're trying to use the touchscreen here, you sometimes touch these ones by mistake. Often I would do it because when you're driving, your hand is moving, so you want to rest your hand somewhere and then press the button on the screen, in which case you might be touching one of these buttons, which is home, map, search, media, programmable button, and setup. So this is kind of the only other thing that we're not crazy about. All your climate settings are here separately in the middle of the screen, between the dashboard and the center screen. They're a little bit obstructed by your steering wheel, so they are not the best position if you want to play around with the climate. You have your temperature. Basic settings are all here through the buttons. So you have your fan speed and your temperature settings here via a physical button on the left, which is great. This is for your temperature for the passenger, and this is your mode for entertainment. You have some climate controls here for the rear passengers, which are up there on the ceiling, and your vents, heating vents, are actually in the ceiling as well, which is kind of different. Most of the other electric cars have venting either in the middle console or in the B-pillar, but none of that exists here. It's all via the vents in the ceiling. Okay, so that being said, let's take you for a spin and tell you about the results of our testing. You may have seen it on our Facebook page, but we'll run through those results again. They are kind of very interesting. We're doing this test in the winter, so this is a winter test. The temperatures were between -5 and -15, so typical winter temperatures. A lot of snow this week. This is February 2025. A lot of snow, actually probably record-breaking snow this time around in the winter. So that's it. Let's take you for a spin. So we like the fact that it's a physical gear shifter. The issue is for people with long legs, they might be touching it. Depending on their seat position, they might be touching it. Like my 6'6" son, he doesn't like it this location because he touches it with his legs. He likes sitting a little closer to the wheel. The nice thing is that the seat operation here, you have the seat heater, seat cooling for both front seats, and as well as steering heat. All the buttons are here on the left, so we always turned it on. We kept the steering heat at 1. We initially used this seat heater if it was very cold, but we would turn it off after. We don't like heated seats too much. So that's most of our testing was done with seat heat off and the steering heat at 1, so that we don't have to wear the gloves. You have the basic controls just like within the other car. We like the fact that you have the cruise controls here on the left of the wheel, your entertainment controls on the right. There's a drive mode here and terrain mode, it came in very handy this time around. So the drive modes, you have the normal, sport, my drive, and eco. Most of our testing was done in eco. You have the nice 5-second acceleration if you put it in sport. We did not use it because it's winter. It's kind of pointless. Plus this car, it's an SUV, 7-seater SUV. You don't want to, it's not a sports car, so what's the point of a sport mode? However, the terrain modes were very helpful. A lot of snow this week. So your terrain modes are snow, mud, and sand. And guess which one we used the most? Yes, we did use the snow mode a few times. because there was anywhere between 20 to 40 centimeters of snow depending on the area. So it was it came in very handy. Of course, we did not use it all the time. We just used it when we were driving in deep snow. Other than that, we kept it basically in eco, and let's do it now. Actually, we can try and start it in sport, even though we didn't do it at all before. So let's start in that. And then we'll just keep it in eco, because this is where most of our testing was done. So let's try and see. Stuff is gonna move around because when we accelerate it. Okay, by the way, one way pedal, one pedal driving, two taps. There we go. Again, it worked now. pedal, you can see it right here. pedal is their name for one pedal driving. So then the car comes to a full stop. So we drove basically all the time in eco mode with one pedal driving mode called pedal with Kia and Hyundai. Okay, so let's see. 380 horsepower, 5-second acceleration. Honestly, for a 7-seater SUV, it's quick enough. You don't want it. There will be an even quicker and more powerful version, the proper GT, which is supposed to have somewhere between 500 and 600 horsepower, likely around 4-second acceleration. But do you really need that in a large 7-seater family SUV? I don't know. There might be a buyer market for it. We're not sure who would get that, but I guess if someone wants to compete with the bottom version of the Rivian, might go for it and save himself a lot of money. Or the Volkswagen Buzz is 6.5 seconds, so it's actually with its 335 horsepower at 6.5 seconds acceleration. It's still a good acceleration. Not phenomenal, not spectacular, but it's pretty good for a large van with all-wheel drive. This is 380 horsepower with, I believe the official figure is 5.5 seconds from 0 to 100. So this is quicker than the Volkswagen Buzz. Again, good enough. We're in sport mode. Let's put it back in eco, honestly. It's not a sports car, so like we just drove it in eco mode, and that's what it is right now. So we're showing 59%, and we're showing, excuse me, just over half, 230 kilometers. So basically that would translate to about, we started this morning at 100%, was showing 395 kilometers or something like that. But that's always kind of just a prediction. Not sure how much of driving they take into the consideration by calculating the estimated range. The official range, rated range, it's almost 500 kilometers, but that's in ideal conditions. What we found out is, based on our different tests, and we did 3 different tests. We did a test without preconditioning and with battery conditioning on for the DC session, which produced obviously the highest consumption, and that would have been 36 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which would translate to only 270 kilometers range in the winter on the highway. What it did help increase the speed of charging. So we went to a 350 kilowatt charger in Barrie at Electrify Canada. We got a speed right away of 120 kilowatts between 48% all the way to 80%. Then we did another test where we preconditioned the car going back to Toronto, very similar conditions. We did not do any charging, so we did not precondition the battery. So preconditioned the car before the trip, and we got the best result of 27 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which would translate about 370 kilometers of winter highway range. Then basically in between we got a result of without preconditioning, you usually get a result of just around 30, which would give it a result of less in between those other two results, right? So depending on what preconditioning you do, again, the range would be from between 270 all the way to 360, even in the on the highway in the winter for this particular car. And of course, you can also hypermile it. In our experience, the mixed driving, half highway, half side roads with the climate on, produced a consumption of only 23, which means if you were not to do any highway at all, if you're only doing the side roads at 90 kilometers per hour and with climate on in the winter in these conditions, which means around between -5 and -10, without any major winds, you could probably lower the consumption to under 20, which would then give you a 500 kilometer winter range, but that's in hypermile mode doing 90 kilometers per hour, which should be achievable in the summer on the highway, according to the EPA and Transport Canada ratings. Okay, so let's take you on the highway so that we can demonstrate the HDA or Highway Drive Assist with its autopilot and auto steer and adaptive cruise with auto lane change. So it works quite well. Not always now, mind you, the sensors are dirty, so we might get an error. We did not wash the car, so apologies for that. We thought that it will be more genuine to just show you the car full of salt and stuff because it's a winter test. So we're not sure if the HDA will actually work because the radar in the front might be dirty. So we'll have a look and see. So the way you turn it on is pretty simple. First you have to turn on the cruise control, which is the button here, and the auto steer is this button here. There you go. They are both on. So let's get into the lane. Then we increase the speed with the button here. Let's do the there we go. So now we are in auto steer and we are in adaptive cruise mode. And so basically, as long as you're not changing lanes, let's increase it slightly. As long as you're not changing lanes, it'll let you not hold the wheel for quite extended times. If you want to change the lane, right now the automatic, no, it will not do. So for you to change the lanes, let's just not do it. There you go. It's doing it by itself, but it's actually you have to hold the wheel for this to work, and it will turn off the indicator all by itself. So let's turn on some wipers. It's kind of, the snow has melted and it's kind of dirty today on the highways. So yeah, so it'll let you drive without holding the wheel for quite long, as long as you're not changing lanes. If you want to use the auto lane change, the car will ask you to keep your hands on the wheel. So it's kind of a strange system. There doesn't seem to be any sensors looking at you like some of the other cars with auto steer have, and hands-free systems. So again, let's try and change the lane. There we go. Keep your hand on the steering wheel. No, it did not work. That's because of the car in front of us. Let's try again. And see, it changed its mind. Okay, so I don't know, there's nothing behind us, and the car still changed its mind. So it canceled the lane change. The lane changes are done very smoothly, much smoother than the BMW auto steer systems. So we kind of like it. Yeah, so there you go. It's an auto steer, very good auto steer system. It'll let you take your hands off the wheel for extended periods of time. There didn't seem to be any alarms as long as you're going in a straight line and not changing lanes. Pretty good system. We're really happy with it. It's very useful. There's limitations to it. Of course, it's geo-fenced. The HDA can only be used on the 400 series highways. Right now we just did it on the Gardner, so that works as well. Yeah, very good system. Yes, if you have any questions regarding this test. Oh, by the way, the charging, the fast charging speed. So with preconditioning, we mentioned to you, with preconditioning, it uses a lot of battery to get there, but we got a speed of 120. The same route without preconditioning, we only got a speed of 50. So you're charging at half the speed. So you'll take twice as long to charge. So it's your choice. You can, save the battery consumption. And if you're not in a rush and you're paying per kilowatt hour, it might be a good idea not to precondition battery in the winter ahead of the fast charging session. If you're not in a rush, and if you are in a rush or paying by the minute, then you better precondition the battery, because then you're charging twice as fast. And again, this car is capable well over 200 kilowatts, but all we got in the winter was maximum 120. And then without preconditioning, it only went to about 55 or so. So not very fast and nowhere near the maximum speed that this car is capable of. This is an 800 volt architecture for the eGMP platform, which is shared among most of the Kia, Hyundai, and Genesis cars. Yeah, so it's a good information for you to know. Again, have a look at our Facebook post. We have exact statistics for our charging sessions. We'll try and put in a quick snippet of our charging session into this video as well, so you have an idea. We did talk about the charging performance as well as the consumption there. So that's about it for the review of 2025 Kia EV9 Land all-wheel drive. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to comment. We'll try and answer your questions. As usual, do not forget to press the subscribe button on our channel to be informed when the next review is coming. We have lots more, many more pure electric and plug-in hybrid cars and trucks and vans to be reviewed very shortly. So stay tuned, and we hope to see you at the next review. Thank you for watching. And finally, we have to thank our sponsor, Condos and Castles Realty Inc., for their sponsorship over the years. You can find them at www.condosandcastles.com. Thank you for watching. We'll see you at the next review.